I remember the exact moment my childhood ended. It wasn't when my mom died, though that shattered something in me I don't think will ever fully heal. It wasn't even the day my dad brought Cassandra home for the first time, introducing her like a magician pulling a rabbit out of a hat. This is Cassandra. She's been helping me grieve. She's family now. No. The moment my childhood ended was when I opened up the envelope I found in the crawl space behind the linen closet, an envelope my mother had left for me. On the front, in her delicate cursive, "For Matthew. When you're old enough to understand. But we're not there yet. We have to start at the funeral. My mom died when I was 15. Breast cancer. She fought like hell, surgeries, chemo, radiation, the whole war. By the end, she was a skeleton in a hospital bed, trying to smile at me even when it looked like blinking hurt. After the burial, I went numb. The casseroles, the pitying eyes, the parade of well-meaning church ladies, it all blurred together. My dad didn't talk much. He cried once in the garage, slamming his fist into the workbench. Then he got quiet. Just efficient. Like grief was a to-do list he was crossing off. It was 2 months before Cassandra appeared. She was everything my mom wasn't. Blonde. Loud. Always smiling like she was auditioning for something. She moved into our house in less than a year. Married my dad the year after that. I didn't hate her, not at first. I didn't love her either. But I tried. I was a quiet kid, not the rebel type. My mom had told me to be kind, always. So I was. I said thank you when Cassandra made dinner. I accepted hugs that felt like someone trying on a coat that didn't quite fit. I let her rearrange the house. I even let her throw away some of Mom's things. That's one of the only things I regret. Letting her take the hummingbird lamp. I should have fought harder. It wasn't until years later, long after I'd gone to college and moved out, that I came back to help with a home renovation. My dad had retired and wanted to flip the house. Cassandra, of course, had big ideas. "We're opening up the walls," she said one morning, gesturing like she was on HGTV. "Modern, clean lines." She handed me a crowbar. Told me to rip into the closet in the upstairs hallway. I didn't think much of it. But inside the wall, behind some old insulation, taped to a support beam, was an envelope. Yellowed. Dusty. It looked like it had been there for years. For Matthew. I didn't open it right away. My hands were shaking. I hid it in my jacket and said I was going out for coffee. Instead, I sat in my car, parked under a dying maple tree, and stared at the envelope like it might detonate. When I finally broke the seal, the first thing I saw was her handwriting. That soft, sloping script I hadn't seen in years. I swear, I could smell her perfume just looking at it. Then I started reading. And everything I thought I knew about Cassandra and my mom's death started to unravel. The first sentence in the letter made my blood run cold. "If you are reading this, it means I am gone, and Cassandra is in your life." I reread that line 5 times. It wasn't just a suspicion. She knew. She predicted Cassandra's presence, even before the funeral dirt had settled. She went on. "I need to tell you the truth about her. And about your father. I wish I had done this while I was alive, but I thought I had more time. I thought, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was paranoid. But deep down, I know I wasn't." I sat there in my car, heart pounding so hard I could barely breathe. I glanced at the house, at Cassandra's silhouette through the kitchen window, moving like she owned the world. Then I kept reading. The letter was dated 6 months before she died. "Cassandra used to be my friend." That sentence hit like a punch. We met in a support group for women going through treatment. She was bright, kind, a good listener. I let her into my life. I told her things. Too many things. Mom had been sick for over 2 years at that point. She went to counseling. Group therapy. She told me she was journaling a lot. But I didn't know about Cassandra. She offered to help, groceries, rides to chemo, little things. I was so grateful. I trusted her. So much so that I asked her father to be nice to her. I encouraged him to lean on her when I couldn't be there for him. "I was so afraid of leaving you two alone." I don't know if I said it out loud or just thought it, but I whispered, "Oh my God." She went on. "At first, I thought it was just me being oversensitive. I was on a lot of medication. I was tired. But there were things I couldn't ignore. The way she looked at him. How he looked back. The phone calls that ended when I walked into the room. The way she started showing up uninvited, wearing perfume I used to wear, laughing too loud, touching your father's arm. Then one night, I heard them. I was upstairs, and they didn't know I was awake. I heard her say, 'I don't want to be the other woman forever.' And he didn't tell her to stop. I dropped the letter in my lap. My hands were shaking. My dad had been cheating on Mom with her friend while she was dying. I picked the letter back up and turned the page. I confronted him the next day. He denied it, of course. Said I was sick, imagining things. Cassandra cried. She told me she would never do such a thing, that she loved me like a sister. She brought flowers the next day. Tulips. You know how I hate tulips. I didn't know. Mom thought they were funeral flowers pretending to be cheerful. Mother's Day came cold that year. Strange, considering it was May. But that morning, there was a bite in the air like winter had unfinished business. I remember standing in the kitchen, watching Cassandra buzz around in a pale pink dress, the kind my mom would have called trying too hard. She was cooking a full brunch spread like she was being filmed for a suburban mom blog. I wanted to throw the plate of waffles through a window. Dad sat at the table, flipping through his phone, already dressed in his church casual best. He nodded at me but didn't say much. He never did these days. Cassandra chirped about mimosas, brunch reservations, and remembering the strong women in our lives. I had to leave the room before I choked on bile. I went upstairs to retrieve the gift box I'd prepared the night before. Matte black, tied with red silk ribbon. Inside, my mother's wedding ring, a printed copy of the letter, a framed photo of Mom and me on the porch, the last photo we ever took together, and a handwritten note from me. You never were my mother, but she wanted you to have this. Read the letter. Don't lie to yourself this time. I placed the box on the table between the roses and the stack of pastel greeting cards. Cassandra saw it and beamed like a prom queen. You got me something? I nodded. Open it when everyone's here. Oh, Maddie, she cooed, like I was 5 again. You didn't have to. I did. The guests arrived, cousins, church friends, a few of Dad's colleagues. Everyone hugged Cassandra, told her how lucky she was to have such a sweet stepson. She made a whole performance of blushing, waving them off, saying I was her bonus son. I kept checking my phone, counting the minutes. My hands felt like ice. Around noon, she tapped her glass with a spoon and announced, "Before we dig in, I just want to say a few words." Of course she did. She launched into a speech about blended families, healing, love after loss. She even invoked Mom's name. I think Janine would be proud of the life we've built. I nearly stood up, nearly screamed, but I didn't. Instead, I calmly pushed the gift box toward her. What's this? She asked, cocking her head like a confused golden retriever. Open it, I said. It's from me. And someone else. She looked around, flattered. The crowd was watching. Dad looked mildly alarmed but didn't move. She untied the ribbon slowly, dramatically, milking the attention. When she lifted the lid and saw the wedding ring sitting on top, glinting under the chandelier like a ghost's middle finger, the color drained from her face instantly. She froze. Her hands trembled as she removed the ring. Beneath it, the letter, neatly printed. Mom's words staring back at her like a haunting. I watched the tremor ripple through her shoulder blades as she began to read. It didn't even take a full minute before she tried to fake a smile and close the lid. You shouldn't have, she said, voice tight. Keep reading. Matthew, this isn't the time. Keep reading. I said it calmly, but loud enough that the room quieted. People were watching now. Dad stood up. What is this? He asked. Cassandra looked like she might vomit. She opened the letter again, scanned it faster this time, hoping, I'm sure, that her memory of what she'd done wasn't as bad as what Mom had written down. But it was worse. A few guests began to murmur. I could see Mrs. Henderson from next door peering at the paper like a hawk. Dad looked over Cassandra's shoulder, and when he saw the letterhead, his face changed. You told me she never knew, he whispered. Cassandra blinked at him. She didn't, she was hallucinating. You said. Dad picked up the paper, started reading. His hands visibly shook. I heard her say, I don't want to be the other woman forever, Jesus Christ. Silence fell over the room like a dropped curtain. I spoke then, slowly, clearly, every word like a blade honed in my mouth. She knew, the whole time. She just didn't want to fight. You were already killing her. Cassandra let out a noise, half sob, half cough. Her mascara was starting to smear. You slept with her while she was sick, in her own house, and you let her die thinking maybe she was just going crazy. That's what gets me the most. You made her doubt herself. Dad looked like he'd swallowed broken glass. He turned toward Cassandra, jaw clenched. You told me she never suspected, he hissed. Cassandra tried to stand. I didn't make you do anything. You moved in 6 weeks after her funeral. I loved you. No, you loved taking her place. The party disbanded fast after that. Guests left in stunned silence. No one touched the mimosas. Some took paper plates of food like they were unsure whether leaving empty-handed was more awkward. Cassandra ran upstairs. Dad followed, slammed the bedroom door behind him. I sat alone in the dining room, looking at the now empty chair across from me, where Cassandra had sat, smiling like a queen. On the table, the box sat open, Mom's ring still glinting. I picked it up and slid it into my pocket. An hour later, I heard Cassandra leave, the sound of high heels stumbling across the front steps, a car peeling out of the driveway. She never moved back in. Not after what came next. Because the letter wasn't the only secret Mom left behind. And I wasn't the only one she'd written to. I let it go. I had to. I didn't have the strength to fight anymore, and I needed them. Or so I thought. But I couldn't stop watching. Listening. Cassandra started coming around more when you weren't home. She started talking to me like she was already the lady of the house. I felt sick. A twisted kind of nausea, like the ground under me had been quietly dissolving for years, and I'd only now noticed. The last part of the letter was the worst. Matthew, I need you to understand something. If your father ends up with Cassandra, it's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. But if that day comes, I want you to remember who she really is. I want you to look at her and know she is not your mother. She never will be. And she's not your family. If you ever feel like she's taken too much, taken my place, rewritten the story, I want you to give her this truth back. On your terms. In your time. Happy Mother's Day, Cassandra. She underlined it. I read that line again and again. Happy Mother's Day, Cassandra. She'd given me the date. The moment. The day the truth should be unwrapped like a gift. That's when I knew exactly what I had to do. I had to wait. I had to watch. I had to let Cassandra think she'd won. That she'd buried my mom and stolen her crown. And then, on Mother's Day, I would give her a gift she could never return. A letter. A truth. A reckoning. The next few months were brutal. I moved back home under the excuse of helping with renovations. Cassandra was thrilled. She called me sweetheart again. Told me she loved that I was finally warming up to her. Every day I saw her move through the house like she belonged there, like she'd earned it. And every day, I wanted to scream. But I waited. I watched. And then I found something that made it all even worse. I was in the attic, looking for an old photo album Mom used to keep. Cassandra claimed she didn't know where it had gone. But I remembered the boxes. I remembered Mom's handwriting. I found the album, and beneath it, tucked into the bottom of the box, was a ring. Her wedding ring. The one that had gone missing during hospice. She wore it until the very end. Then one day, it was just gone. Dad said it probably slipped off in the laundry. That maybe the nurses misplaced it. But here it was, tucked away in a box Cassandra swore she never touched. I brought it downstairs, held it out like it was burning my fingers. Where did you find that? Cassandra asked, all sugar and sunshine. In the attic, I said. Why was it hidden in one of your boxes? She blinked. Her smile faltered. That's not mine. I've never seen that box before. You labeled it. With your name. She laughed nervously. I don't know how it got there, Matthew. Maybe your dad. I cut her off. Sure. I didn't press further. I didn't need to. I had everything I needed. All that was left was to wrap it. Cassandra was gone. Vanished like the ghost she'd helped create. After the Mother's Day detonation, she packed a single overnight bag, told my dad she needed space to think, and drove off in her leased white Audi with one broken taillight and 24 lies in her wake. The house was still. No fake laughter. No clinking bracelets. No. Matthew, would you mind running to the store? I walked past the floral-scented void she left behind and down into the basement, where my mom's belongings had been boxed up and ignored for years. Because there was something else I remembered. Something she told me the last time we ever spoke, when her voice was more whisper than breath. If anything happens, there's a key in the sewing kit. I found the kit buried under craft supplies in a cracked plastic bin. It hadn't been touched in almost a decade. Inside, tucked beneath a roll of navy thread, was a tiny brass key attached to a faded red ribbon. No tag, no explanation, but I knew what it was for. A safety deposit box. The day after the disaster brunch, I drove to the bank, the same branch Mom used since I was a baby. When I asked if she had a box there, the manager was hesitant at first, until I slid my ID across the counter and said, "She's my mother. She passed away, and I have the key." He made a call. Then he nodded. "Follow me." I half expected the box to be empty, maybe just a birth certificate or some old paperwork. But when the manager opened it, I saw a manila envelope, thick, and something wrapped in tissue paper. I took the box into the little private room and sat down, hands already clammy. Inside the envelope was another letter. If you've come this far, then you know what she did. She meant Cassandra. But this isn't about her. Not entirely. This is about him. My heart thudded. I sat back in the chair. She meant Dad. The next few pages tore open my entire understanding of my family. I found out about Cassandra too late. But Matthew, it wasn't the first time. She wasn't the first. She went on to detail a pattern of suspicion, of late nights and work emergencies that didn't add up. Names, dates, even a receipt, stapled to the letter, from a hotel 2 towns over. Room 204. Dated 6 years before she was diagnosed. I stayed because I loved you. Because I thought I could hold our family together. Because I believed in the version of your father I married. But I was wrong. So very wrong. The letter concluded with a confession. She knew about a second bank account, hidden money, gifts for women who weren't her. And she left the documents to prove it. The tissue paper wrapped a stack of items. Photocopies of emails between my dad and at least 2 women. A second key, this one to a P.O. box. And a handwritten inventory of everything she'd discovered, right down to timestamps on credit card statements. It was a kill shot, a portfolio of betrayal. My father hadn't just cheated once, during the worst year of her life. He'd made a lifestyle of it. And Cassandra? She wasn't the first. She was just the most arrogant. The one stupid enough to stick around long enough to be caught. I remember sitting in that little bank room, staring at the walls like they were spinning. The floor beneath me wasn't concrete. It was ash. Everything I'd buried for years was burning up at once. The grief, the guilt, the hollow ache of watching my mom fade away and thinking, at least Dad's trying. That was the lie I fed myself to survive. That he grieved with me. But the truth? He was already shopping for a replacement. When I got home, he was in the backyard, watering her hydrangeas like nothing had happened. I stood there for a long minute before I said anything. Tell me about the hotel in Albany. Room 204. He froze. Didn't even turn around. I found Mom's safety deposit box. Still nothing. Then he said, voice like gravel, you don't understand everything. I understand enough. She wasn't happy. Then leave. Don't cheat. Don't bring the woman you slept with into our house while Mom's ashes were still warm. That finally made him turn. His eyes were red, but not from crying. From anger. You don't know what marriage is like, he snapped. You think love is easy? She shut me out for years. She slept in a separate room. We were done long before the diagnosis. Then why not divorce her? Because of you. Because we had a life. No, Dad. She had a life. You had a side project. He looked like he wanted to hit me. But instead, he dropped the watering can, turned around, walked back inside. We didn't speak for the rest of the night. The next day, he found the box on the kitchen table. The deposit box file. The photos. The emails. The receipts. I didn't say a word. I just left the envelope there, with a single note written in black ink. This is the man you chose to be. Don't ever ask me to respect him. I didn't hear from him for 3 days. And when I did, it wasn't a phone call. It was a knock on my bedroom door, and a confession I never expected. I told her she can't come back, he said, standing in the doorway like a shadow of himself. I stared at him. She called, he continued. Said she wants to make it work. But I told her no. I told her you knew everything. That your mother knew everything. I said nothing. He looked down at the floor, shoulders sagging. I ruined everything, didn't I? And for once, I told him the truth. No, you didn't ruin everything. You just finally took credit for it. I thought it was over. The letter had been read. The deposit box opened. My father exposed. Cassandra banished. The house felt quiet again, almost peaceful. But peace, it turns out, is just the eye of the hurricane, and Cassandra wasn't done. 3 weeks after the Mother's Day implosion, we were served papers. A lawsuit, filed by Cassandra. She was suing my father, and by extension, me, for intentional infliction of emotional distress and unlawful eviction. Yes, the woman who slept with my dying mother's husband, who moved into our house like a vulture, who mocked my grief and pretended to be the glue of a broken family. She was now claiming to be the victim. But the part that chilled me? Her lawyers weren't bluffing. They had something. Something she shouldn't have. The morning after we got the court documents, my father knocked on my door again. This time, he was holding an envelope. Smaller. Cream-colored. Thick. I don't know how she got it, he said, voice barely above a whisper. But this was your mother's handwriting. I opened the envelope and pulled out a letter. Not addressed to me. Not even to him. It was addressed to someone named Margot Hale. The contents were short, formal, and written with surgical clarity. To whom it may concern, this is a legally binding statement of biological parentage. In the event of my death, I want it known that Matthew was not fathered by my husband, Thomas. The biological father is listed below. Thomas Hale has been made aware of this. This was mutually agreed upon and is not to be used as leverage in any familial dispute. Sincerely, Janine Hale. Below that, a name I didn't recognize. A name my father clearly hadn't spoken in decades. I didn't say anything at first. I just stared at the name, trying to process what I was reading. When I looked up, my dad's face was pale. She said she'd burn it, he muttered. She told me that letter was gone, that she was just keeping it in case. In case what? I asked. In case I ever try to hurt her. Divorce her. Take you away. So Cassandra found it? He nodded. It was in the attic. I think she was looking for jewelry. No, she was looking for leverage. And she found a King Nuke. That letter changed everything. Cassandra now had legal proof that I wasn't my father's biological son. That mom had an affair before he ever did, and that they'd kept it hidden. That my dad had raised a son that wasn't his and lied about it for 2 decades. It was the perfect weapon, because even though it had nothing to do with her, it gave her something to stand on in court. She painted herself as the wronged party who had unknowingly stepped into a house of secrets. She claimed she'd been emotionally manipulated, that she was cast out after discovering my mother's betrayal, and had merely wanted stability after her own miscarriage. Yeah, she went there. The court date was set, but before it even got that far, my dad cracked. Not in anger, not in denial. He folded like a tired man who'd finally lost his last excuse to pretend. He sat me down in the garage, the same place I found him crying after Mom died, and said the words I never expected to hear. She's right. About the paternity. I didn't say anything. He went on. Your mom told me 3 months after you were born. She said she was sorry, that it was a mistake, a one-time thing. I didn't believe her. I wanted to leave. But I looked at you, and you were my son. He swallowed hard. You always have been. I should have been furious. Should have screamed. Thrown something. Walked out. But I didn't. Because in that moment, I realized something. This entire house was a monument to half-truths. Lies layered on top of love, like sediment in an ancient ruin. And somehow, I was the artifact that emerged from the wreckage. A son built on secrets. A truth buried by a dying mother. A father who wasn't mine, but never once treated me like I was anything else. The silence that followed lasted a full minute. Then he asked, "Do you hate me now?" And I said, "No, I hate what you became. But I still remember who you were." We settled the case out of court. Cassandra got nothing. Her bluff collapsed when she realized the letter couldn't win her damages. If anything, it undermined her story, revealed that Mom had been the wronged one first, that I had been the collateral. But she did leak the letter to a few people. Family, friends, church folk. It made the rounds. The fallout was brutal. My father withdrew from everyone. He sold the house a month later and moved into a condo in a smaller town. Said he didn't want to be a landmark for people's gossip. I didn't blame him. As for Cassandra, last I heard, she'd moved to Florida. Got engaged again, to some plastic surgeon with a gambling problem. Her Instagram page is a highlight reel of motivational quotes and filtered beach photos. But I know the truth. I know that every Mother's Day, she probably flinches when she sees a black ribbon. Or a hummingbird. I know she'll never forget the look I gave her when she opened that box. And that's enough for me. I keep both letters in a fireproof box now. Mom's final gift. She died with secrets, but she made sure I didn't have to carry them blind. Every now and then, I pull out the wedding ring. The one Cassandra tried to erase. The one my mom wore until the very end. I don't wear it. I just keep it near my desk, next to the old porch photo of us. Because no matter what blood says, or courts rule, or liars try to rewrite, she was my mother. And I was always her son.